When is deviation from the rules of the air permitted only in the interests of flight safety? No person shall use a public road as a place of landing or takeoff in an aircraft, except A, in an emergency involving the safety of the aircraft or its occupants, B, when involved in civil defense or law enforcement operation. C, for the purpose of saving human lives, D. All of the options are correct. No pilot shall use a public road as a place of landing or takeoff, except in the case of emergency involving the safety of the aircraft. No article other than fine sand or clean water used as ballast or chemical substances for the purpose of spraying or dusting may be dropped from an aircraft in flight, except in an emergency. B, both answers are correct. C, by special permission granted by the Director of Civil Aviation, DCA. What can be dropped from an aircraft without the permission of the director? A, chemical substances for the purpose of spraying, dusting, or cloud seeding. B, both answers are correct. C and B. Both answers are correct. C, fine sand or clean water used as ballast. The PIC of an aircraft may pick up an object only when she has obtained prior written approval from the director. Whilst taxiing at an uncontrolled airfield, the pilot sees that another aircraft is converging from the right. The pilot should slow down or stop, allowing the other aircraft right of way. The pilot of an aircraft observes the red beacon light and the green navigation light of another aircraft on a relative bearing of 340 degrees. The bearing of this aircraft remains constant at about the same level. There is a danger of collision and the other aircraft needs to give way. After an aircraft has been cleared to taxi to the active runway, a vehicle which is towing another aircraft is seen to be approaching from the right. What should the pilot's actions be? Stop and allow the vehicle which is towing another aircraft to pass. Gliders have right-of-way over balloons. False. An airplane and helicopter are converging at a 90 degrees angle. The helicopter is to the right of the airplane. The aircraft with right of the airplane. The aircraft with right-of-way is the helicopter because it is to the right of the airplane. Which is the correct order of priority? Power driven heavier than air aircraft shall give way to airships, gliders, and balloons. An aircraft is being overtaken by another aircraft. Which aircraft has the right of way, and in which direction should the overtaking aircraft alter its heading? The aircraft being overtaken, it must turn to the right. When two aircraft are approaching head-on or approximately so, and there is a danger of collision, each shall alter its heading to the right. When can an overtaking aircraft alter its heading to the left? When a right-hand circuit pattern is in force. When two aircraft are approaching head-on or approximately so and there is a danger of collision, each aircraft shall alter heading to the right. Two aircraft are converging at the same or approximately the same level. Which aircraft has the right of way? The one on the right. When two aircraft are converging at approximately the same height, the aircraft that has the other on its right shall give way, except gliders shall give way to balloons. Airships shall give way to gliders and balloons. On aerodromes, aircraft taxiing on the maneuvering area of an aerodrome shall give way to aircraft taking off or about to take off. On the ground, when two aircraft are approaching head-on, both airplanes must stop or where practicable alter course to the right to keep well clear. An aircraft is considered to overtake another if it approaches the other aircraft from the rear on a line forming an angle of less than 70 degrees with the plane of symmetry of the lap. If an aircraft is following in a line feature at or below 1,500 above ground level and within 1 nautical miles from the feature, the aircraft fly to the right of the land feature following the line feature. When is an aircraft allowed to fly outside of controlled airspace at an airspeed of 320 knots? Only when flying above flight level 1000. The speed restrictions for both IFR and VFR flights in Class G airspace when flying below 10,000 feet AMSL, 250 knots in indicated ARSL, 250 knots in indicated airspeed IOSA. The maximum IAS for an aircraft flying outside controlled airspace at flight level 080. The answer is 250 knots. The maximum permissible indicated airspeed when operating outside controlled airspace between ground level and flight level and flight level and flight level 100 is 250 knots. The maximum speed for a reciprocating piston engine aircraft in a control zone is 160 knots. The maximum airspeed that a turboprop aircraft can fly in a control zone, 200 knots. Unless otherwise authorized by an air traffic control, no person shall fly an aircraft within a control zone or an aerodrome traffic zone at an indicated airspeed of more than 160 knots for piston engine aircraft and 200 knots for turbine-powered aircraft. When flying outside of controlled airspace and between the ground and flight level 100, the maximum permissible speed is 250 knots. A vehicle towing an aircraft has right of way over an aircraft taxiing across an apron. A vehicle moving along a runway or taxiway shall, as far as is practical, keep to the right-hand side of the runway or taxiway. Circuit height at any airfield is 1,000 feet above airfield elevation, unless the AIP specifies something different. The PIC of an aircraft which is approaching an unmanned aerodrome for the purpose of landing shall fly overhead, at least at 2,000 feet, to establish the runway in use. The pilot operating on or in the vicinity of an aerodrome where there is no air traffic control shall be responsible for making all turns to the left, unless a right-hand circuit is in force. Unless otherwise specified in the AIP, what is the circuit height for aircraft with reciprocating piston engines, 1,000 feet above aerodrome elevation? When approaching an unmanned aerodrome for the purpose of landing, the PIC should fly overhead at least 2,000 feet above aerodrome elevation in order to establish the runway in use. When taking off on runway 03 for a cross-country flight at an uncontrolled aerodrome, the aircraft must turn. The answer is left or right depending on the circuit direction. An aerodrome and its environs shall not be crossed or overflown at a height of. The answer is less than 2,000 feet. The crew of an aircraft uses the following signal in order to give notice of difficulties, which compel it to land without requiring immediate assistance. The answer is the repeated switching on and off of the landing lights. In flight, the pilot of an aircraft observes a series of projectiles discharged from the ground at intervals of 10 seconds, each showing, on bursting, red and green lights or stars. The meaning of this signal is the answer is the unauthorized aircraft is flying in or about to enter a restricted, prohibited, or danger area, and the aircraft is to take such remedial action as may be necessary. Which of the following would count as a distress signal? The answer is rockets or shells throwing red lights, fired one at a time at short intervals. Distress signals are signals made by radio telephony or by any signaling method consisting of one. Signal sent by radio telephony consisting of spoken word, Mayday X32, rocket shells throwing red lights fired one at a time and at short intervals. 3. Parachute flare showing red lights 4. A signal made by radio telegraphy or by any other signaling method consisting of the group SOS. Which of the following signals is a distress signal? The answer is a parachute flare showing a red light. What does a parachute flare with a red light mean? The answer is grave and imminent danger threatens. An aircraft maneuvering in an airport circuit receives a series of red flashes from the control tower. This signifies that the aircraft the answer is not land, because the airport is not available for landing. A series of red flashes from aerodrome control directed towards an aircraft in flight means the answer is aerodrome unsafe, do not land. While taxiing, an aircraft receives the following light signal from the control tower, series of red flashes. This signal means that the answer is must vacate the landing area in use. A series of red flashes from aerodrome control directed towards an aircraft on ground means the answer is taxi clear of landing area in use and keep an eye out for traffic. A steady red light beam directed at an aircraft in flight from the aerodrome control tower means the answer is do not land, give way to other aircraft and continue circling. A steady green light from aerodrome control to an aircraft on the ground means the answer is cleared for takeoff. What does it mean when a steady green light is beamed to an aircraft in the air? The answer is cleared to land. You are in an aircraft at night, and the aerodrome control tower begins to flash the taxi and runway lights. What do? The answer is vacate the runway and observe the tower for light signal. The signal which, when directed from an aerodrome at an aircraft in the air, shall constitute an instruction to the aircraft to give way to other aircraft, and continue circling, is the answer is a continuous red beating. While taxiing, an aircraft receives from the airport controller the following light signal, a series of green flashes. This signal means that the answer is may continue to taxi towards the takeoff area. A series of green flashes from aerodrome control directed towards an aircraft on ground means the answer is cleared to taxi. A series of green flashes from acrodrome control directed towards an aircraft in flight means the answer is return for landing. Whilst flying in an aerodrome's traffic circuit, an aircraft receives a series of green flashes from the tower. The answer is a must come back to land, and the landing clearance will be sent in due time. A red flare addressed to a flying aircraft means the answer is notwithstanding any previous instructions, do not land for the time being. Marshalling signals chalks out the answer is arms down, palms facing outwards, move arms outwards. The signal from pilot to marshaller, which means brakes applied, is the answer is raise arm and hand with fingers extended in front of face, then clench fist. A signalman will ask the pilot to apply parking brakes by the following signals. The answer is raising arm and hand horizontally in front of body, fingers extended, then clenching fist. When a pilot raises his arms, extended palms facing outwards, and moves his hands inwards to cross in front of the face, this means the answer is insert chop. The marshalling signal, arms extended, palms facing inwards, arms swung from the extended position inwards means the answer is chocks inserted. A marshaller signal, either arm and hand level with shoulder, hand across throat, palm downward. The hand is moved sidewards with the arm remaining bent, indicates the answer is cut engine. A signalman uses the following signal, arms down with palms towards the ground, then moved up and down several times. This means the answer is slow down. If the marshaller, arms repeatedly crossed above his head, this means the answer is stop. Which signal from a marshaller indicates all clear? The answer is right arm raised bent at elbow with thumb extended. A marshaller has his arms above his head in vertical position, palms facing inward. This means that the answer is, you should proceed to this bay. When requesting a pilot to engage the parking brake, a marshaller will give the following signal. The answer is raise arm and hand with fingers extended, horizontally in front of body, then clench fists. The white dumbbell with black perpendicular bar indicates that the answer is taxiing need not be confined to the taxiways. A horizontal white dumbbell with a black bar placed perpendicular to the shaft across each circular portion placed in the signal area indicates that the answer is aircraft are required to land and take off on runways only, but other maneuvers need not be confined to runways or taxiways. A double white cross displayed horizontally in the signal area indicates that the answer is the aerodrome is being used by gliders and that gliders are being performed. Closed runways and taxiways are indicated by the answer is crosses of a single contrasting color, yellow or white, displayed horizontally on runways and taxiways, or parts thereof indicate an area unfit for movement of aircraft. A runway with a big yellow X on black background indicates to the pilot. The answer is a runway is closed. What does a white cross on the end of the runway mean? The answer is the runway, or a part thereof, is unfit for the movement of aircraft. A right-hand arrow of conspicuous color indicates. The answer is that turns are to be made to the right before landing and after takeoff. What does a red square with a yellow cross in the signal square indicate? The answer is aerodrome is unfit for aircraft movements and landings are prohibited. A red square with a yellow diagonal displayed in the signals area indicates. The answer is the state of the maneuvering area is poor. A black letter C on a yellow background indicates. The answer is where a visiting pilot should report on arrival. An aircraft shall display, if so equipped, an anti-collision light. The answer is on the ground when the engines are running. Lights to be displayed by heavier than air aircraft at night are. The answer is red on the left, green on the right, and white on the tail. Navigation lights located on the wingtips for use at night should be visible above and below the horizontal plane, and from directly ahead through an angle of the answer is 110 degrees. The coverage angle of the regulatory white navigation position lights, continuously lit in flight and located to the rear of the aircraft, is the answer is 140 degrees. The coverage angle of the red navigation position light is, the answer is 110 degrees. To cross lighted stop bars on the maneuvering area of an aerodrome, the following applies. The answer is an aircraft may only proceed further if the lights are switched off.